Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Tuesday, August 17th, 2021, and today I'm going to be talking about Adam Laxalt in the state of Nevada announcing that he's going to be running for the GOP nomination against incumbent Democrat Catherine Cortez Masto. Now, this Senate race is amongst the most competitive ones for Democrats in 2022, as they have a very vulnerable incumbent, Catherine Cortez Masto, who ran in 2016 to replace outgoing Senator Harry Reid in the state of Nevada, only won by 2.4% on the same ballot that Hillary Clinton won by 2.4%. So looking at the state of Nevada in 2022, a lot of speculation about who is going to win in this race. Adam Laxalt, who has been widely expected to run in this race, has officially announced that he's going to be doing so. And we can do a little bit of a understanding as to what he adds or just doesn't really change about the race, because Adam Laxalt has been widely expected to announce his candidacy for United States Senate. Now, let's do a quick run through. Who is Adam Laxalt? Well, Adam Laxalt is actually the former Attorney General of the state of Nevada. He won in 2014 with 46.2% of the vote. He won by less than 1 point. Now, understand in 2014, it was a very good year for the GOP. So if anything, Adam Laxalt quite underperformed many other top Republicans across the state, including the governor, who won by a much larger margin. Let's see here if we can find the margin with over 70% of the vote. Brian Sandoval won overwhelmingly. Yet on the same ballot, Adam Laxalt, as the Republican nominee, won by less than 1%. And that'll be relevant when we talk about the electoral history of Nevada in just a moment. But looking at him as a person, he is the Attorney General. He is just a standard rundown, just a general type of Attorney General, someone who had very high political connections. I mean, quite literally went to Georgetown University. So looking at him, he was the former grandson of the former governor and U.S. Senator. And also, he's the son of a senator from New Mexico. So Adam Laxalt, he is going to be probably the only major nominee or major nomination type candidate that could be running in 2022. In 2018, he won his primary with 71% of the vote. And one thing I forgot to mention, actually, 2018, he did not run for re-election as Attorney General, but instead decided to run for governor of the state of Nevada and lost by 4 percentage points across the state. Yeah, so looking at his margin here in terms of the primary victory, an overwhelming one, didn't lose a single county, but that didn't necessarily translate into large victories in the general election. Steve Sisolak is the incumbent governor, and Adam Laxalt doesn't look like he's going to be challenging him, but instead challenging a race for United States Senate. Now, if you're looking at Adam Laxalt here, if you're looking at him for 2022, he pretty much is the only top name that Republicans have that could be running for United States Senate. If you take a look at the candidate list for the Republican primary, he has no major primary opposition. There's only one potential name, and that's just a state senator from the 15th Senate District. Of those declined, you have Dean Heller, someone who actually held and served as the United States Senator from Nevada and served as a representative. There is a consideration that he is going to be running for governor in 2022, but he seems to have fallen out of favor from many members of the Trump wing of the Republican Party. The former lieutenant governor says that he's not going to be running for United States Senate. Other state senators are saying they are not going to run. Brian Sandoval, who won his last election in 2014 with over 70% of the vote, a monumental victory, one of the largest victories we've seen for a particular statewide candidate in a swing state for quite some time now, in Nevada at least, for all of the 21st century. So if you look at the list here, sorry about that. If you look at the list here, amongst those Republicans that have considered to run, either they're running for something else or they simply have no interest in the race. So Adam Laxalt, in many regards, was not necessarily the last pick for the GOP because he has been speculated to run for this seat, but it's not as if there are Republicans lining up. Democrats don't really need to worry about that. In this race, they have Catherine Cortez Masto, who is facing a primary opponent, but it won't amount to pretty much anything. Cortez Masto, as the incumbent, has that advantage over any type of primary challenger and also has that advantage over Adam Laxalt in the eventual general election. Laxalt also has an okay history in red wave years. Like I said, he won in 2014, but also by less than a percentage point, which is also why he might be prioritizing the Senate race, given that 2022 is expected by some to be a GOP wave year. And those are quite literally the only years that Adam Laxalt is actually able to win in. But the main point being that the GOP doesn't exactly have that much of a bench, which is why we've known for months now that it'll likely be a matchup between Laxalt and Cortez Masto, and that's exactly what's unfolding. And also, why the Senate election and why not a rerun for governor? Well, first things first, you typically don't run reruns in elections. It rarely ever works. And, while it may sometimes, you wouldn't want to be that candidate who loses twice in a row, especially in a swing state, because the years are going to be very different. 2022 is not going to be like 2018. And if he was to lose again, it would be double, if not triple, the embarrassment as before. But also, Catherine Cortez Masto is not as is more unknown than the incumbent governor. The governor's race might be more difficult to actually go after. If you're taking a look at OH Predictive Insights, they actually just polled the state of Nevada, and you can see here that there's about a 13-point advantage for Steve Sisolak, the incumbent governor, with just a 3% advantage for Catherine Cortez Masto. In addition, Sisolak has a higher name ID, despite Cortez Masto holding much larger national implications. But that's because the governor, of course, is typically more recognized than the United States senator. But all in all, when you look at the numbers here, Cortez Masto is relatively unknown, but so is Adam Laxalt. Adam Laxalt also has a 3-point advantage in terms of the total favorable, but 89% of voters say that they recognize him, but that's still 11% of the electorate that doesn't. Just 4% of the electorate says they do not recognize Catherine Cortez Masto. But Democrats really are afraid of losing this race, but it doesn't exactly look like Adam Laxalt is really going to be changing the race too tremendously. The reason why this announcement wasn't really groundbreaking, again, the GOP really didn't have much of a bench to pull from, and if he wasn't to run for Senate, what else would he do? In fact, in all of my predictions, I've pretty much been counting on the fact that Adam Laxalt will be running. I've been treating the race as if that Catherine Cortez Masto will either be facing off against Adam Laxalt or a Republican of similar caliber. That's just how it typically goes, especially in a state such as Nevada, where it was very easy to tell who was going to be the next senator, the next governor, way early on, because it's a small state. And it doesn't really have, on either side, much of a bench to pull from in terms of open races. And you sort of can just connect the dots as to who is going to be campaigning the most, who recently just came out of office and could have an opportunity, who could take advantage, who didn't take up a new position. Because Brian Sandoval took up a new position last year. You could have told by that he wasn't going to run for United States Senate. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken up the position just 2 years before, just to drop it after a few months of being in the position. So a lot of politics is easy to predict, and that's what we're starting to see in this Senate race. I pretty much have been treating the race as if it's been a Laxalt Cortez Masto race from the beginning, and in almost every prediction it's either likely or lean Democrat. And right now I still stand by that lean Democrat characterization. Will Adam Laxalt change the race at all? Absolutely not, in terms of the way that I view it. There was not really a single other Republican that we could have seen ran for this race besides Adam Laxalt. So I have been preparing for this announcement for quite some time now, and it really doesn't come as a shock to pretty much anyone. If you do want to know, of course, that's what we're going to be talking about today as well. Will he actually win in Nevada? Well, first we have to get into the state's electoral history. Understand that Democrats should treat Nevada the same way that Republicans treat the state of North Carolina. If you're looking at the state's electoral history, yes, it is close, but it almost always leans towards one political party. In Nevada's case, it's the Democratic Party. Democrats are able to win statewide by 2.4% with just 2 counties, as they did in 2020. In fact, they could do it by 2.4% with just 1 county, as Catherine Cortez Masto did in 2016 in the Senate race. So looking at the margin here, on the presidential level, they've been identical. In both 2016 and 2020, Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton both won by the same amount, 2.4%. The Senate race in 2016 was won by 2.4%. The good thing about this website, map.jacksonjude.com, is that you can go through electoral history, and we can focus and emphasize the state of Nevada throughout history. This is the beginning of the 21st century. Nevada had practically been a swing state from right in the beginning, 2000 through 2020. Bush won by 3.5%. 2004, it was won by 2.6%. 2008, won by 12.5% for Obama, an absolutely large margin. But keep in mind, Obama was winning states such as Indiana, coming close in North and South Dakota, nearly won the state of Missouri. So the maps were a little bit different. 2012, he wins by 6.7%, Hillary Clinton by 2.4%, and Biden by 2.4%. So Bush was the last Republican to actually win the state of Nevada on the presidential level, and Donald Trump didn't exactly get closer in 2020 than he did in 2016, despite the state's high minority population, where you might expect the margin to actually shift. In some parts of the state, it did get redder, and you can actually see this here on our shift from 2016 map, But regardless, it was enough to be counteracted in different parts of the counties, not blue counties, but red counties with higher white populations that were able to drive the state of Nevada and balance out the gains for Donald Trump amongst minority voters. But Adam Laxalt is not Donald Trump. He might not come as close as Donald Trump did in the 2020 election. In 2018, he did not come as close as Donald Trump did in 2016. And I understand that the circumstances of the year were different, but Nevada didn't exactly have too strong of a result for Democrats in the Senate election either. And, Dean Heller was widely unpopular across the state, and yet Jackie Rosen, as a representative, only won by 5 points across the state. And I say only 5%, not to try to take away from her victory or discredit it in any way, but just to point out that 5 points isn't exactly an overwhelming large margin. Nevada is one of those states as well that is typically immune to wave years in heavy regards, with a few exceptions, one probably being 2008 and maybe 2014. Other than that, midterms don't exactly hit Nevada too hard to a point where it's impossible for either party to win. If the circumstances are right, depending on who's in office, obviously that has some type of impact, but it wouldn't have been impossible for Dean Heller to have won re-election had he maintained his popularity. It would not have been hard, I would say, for Adam Laxalt to win this race had he campaigned differently against Steve Sisolak. A lot of things go into these races, and voters weren't just voting for Steve Sisolak because it was a Democratic wave year. 2020 was far from, I would say, a Democratic wave year if you're calling 2018 a Democratic wave year, but you can sort of try to draw parallels to 2020 just because of the trifecta victory. But besides that, just looking at the Senate race, the governor race in 2018, Adam Laxalt doesn't exactly strike me as this defying odds type of candidate. If he is to win in 2022, it's going to be on the backs of a Republican wave year, and that alone. And if you look at the predictions, actually, you can see here that I'm not alone in my lean Democrat characterization. Both the Cook Political Report and the Sabatos Crystal Ball agree that it is a lean Democrat characterization. Inside Elections is the only one that puts it in battleground, but they typically only characterize safe states and then battleground states. They really don't go into the nitty-gritty when it comes down to individual characterizations such as tilt or lean in this race. So Adam Laxalt is a shoo-in for the nomination. Main takeaways here, not much. It really doesn't change the way that this race is going to go. Democrats and Republicans are likely to perform the same exact way as they were expected a while back. Can Adam Laxalt win this race? Absolutely. Is he the favorite to win this race? Not at all. Catherine Cortez Masto starts out with the advantage because she is the incumbent. And if you take a look at how many people know her versus him, she holds more name recognition and a higher favorability rating. In addition, Steve Sisolak will also be on the ballot. If Sisolak holds a high enough approval rating, he can carry Cortez Masto across the finish line. Democrats typically perform the same altogether. Many people decide to vote down ballot. So that's going to be what's the case in Nevada if Steve Sisolak maintains his popularity through 2022. A lot of results are dependent on one another. In this case, Sisolak and Cortez Masto will likely cross the finish line either together or either not at all. It probably won't be one or the other, but who am I to say that, it's going to be dramatically different. But in terms of those who are in this position where they are looking at the state of Nevada and they are questioning who do they want to run the state, there actually seems to be a pretty even breakdown. But the fact that Sisolak is able to go above and beyond that and maintain such a high popularity just goes to show not only his electability, but the way that Democrats can win over swing state voters. It's very unheard of for a governor in a state as close as Nevada, comparable to maybe Michigan or New Hampshire or Pennsylvania or Wisconsin. It's very unheard of, and it is typically praised when governors are approved of by double digits because it shows that they can win over Republicans, Democrats, Independents, obviously primarily their party, but the fact they have some type of crossover appeal is noticeable. Does Catherine Cortez Masto have that crossover appeal? Not now. But if there is someone on the ballot, on the same exact ballot in 2022 with that crossover appeal, more people are going to be inclined to vote for that Democrat. In this case, Cortez Masto. Adam Laxalt has that name recognition from 2018, but he also has the loser type of recognition. If voters look at the ballot and say, I already rejected you once, why would I vote for you again? That obviously wouldn't go well. You can ask Russ Feingold from the state of Wisconsin, ran in 2010 and lost as the incumbent, ran again in 2016 to reclaim his old seat. lost. Martha McSally ran in 2018, lost, was appointed and then ran in 2020, lost. John James ran in 2018, lost, ran against another senator in 2020, lost. You typically do not rerun candidates because it does not work out, and voters sometimes are offended in some cases that you would run for re-election again after being rejected so early ago. And obviously voters aren't going to be voting for Cortez Masto or against Laxalt for just that reason alone, but in a very competitive state, you need to win every single voter, and you can't have anything working against you. But the unfortunate thing for the GOP is that because we knew Adam Laxalt was going to be this nominee for months now, it goes to show that we already knew that the GOP did not have much of a bench to pull from. And if they're choosing an attorney general from 2014 who won by less than a point in a Republican wave year, lost in 2018, it tells you exactly what you need to know about the current state of the statewide GOP in Nevada. But can Adam Laxalt win, even with many things that seem to be semi-red flags? Obviously not disqualifying things. It's nothing against him as in terms of his character, just more so in terms of electability. Obviously, there would be a better Republican, but the GOP just hasn't seemed to find it in the state of Nevada, or they have chosen to decline running in this Senate race for whatever reason. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2022 Senate election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.